Welcome to Wildfemmes. Today's episode we are doing things a little differently. Recently, over 70 women came together at the beautiful Earthwalker & Co. in Coledale, New South Wales for a night of conversation, cocktails and canapes. It is the first celebration of the Wildfemmes art and interview series in real life with the most incredibly special guest, one of Australia's most iconic media personalities, Deborah Hutton. The energy in the room was palpable and I can't wait for you to listen to this extraordinary chat. Enjoy.
Good evening and welcome to what I hope will be the first of many Wildfemmes IRLs. I have to say, this is pretty mind-blowing standing here at seeing this jam-packed room full of incredible women. So thank you so much for making the time to come out tonight and making the time for yourself, actually, because we often forget to do that. Now, before we kick off, I would love to take a moment to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land in which we are meeting, the Dharawal saltwater people, and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging, and actually to say a big thank you because it is on this land, in the waters of the Mermaid Pool in Wombara, that Wildfemmes first came to life. And this land continues to be a really great muse for me, so I'm incredibly grateful. Now, Wildfemmes first launched 10 weeks after the birth of my daughter Goldie, who might have been giving you a smiley face stamp, I think, on the way in. And it was an incredible journey to go through becoming a new mum and launching an online gallery, and such a positive and impactful movement. Track forward to Goldie turning 1, and I thought that would be the magical number in which I would start to feel myself again. I know, it's funny, isn't it? I'd lovingly booted her off the boob. I was getting full night's sleep and I was exploring how to return to work, which for anyone here who works in TV or content knows it's the Wild West out there. So it was a wild ride trying to figure that out. But I actually just felt really shit, if I'm being completely honest. My hair was falling out, my skin was dull, I was pretty flat, I was hyper emotional. I was a bit ragey too. Like, Scotty only had to look in my direction and I killed him 3 times with my eyes. It's like, you are dead, it wasn't great. So I took myself to the doctor and I said, okay, something's wrong with me and I need you to fix it. And he laughed and he said, yeah, sounds pretty normal for a mum with a 1-year-old. And I was not gonna have any of that because I refuse to normalise symptoms just because they're common. And I should be allowed to feel good. So I did what I do best. And I went down some glorious rabbit holes. I'm pretty good at it. And I scoured the internet and I found some incredible women doing some amazing things. And I went deep into the space. In my mind, I was like, I'm gonna give myself a holistic glow up. So everything. And I found people in health and wellness, longevity, biohacking, hormonal health, business and entrepreneurship as well, and woo-woo, and what I like to call boo-woo, which is business woo-woo, because I think it's all starting to come together really now that we think about it. And I had such a great time doing it, and I started to feel better, and I found new ways of living, and it was glorious. And I thought, if I feel like this, other people might feel like this too. And not just mums, but people that might have suffered a traumatic experience, people who might be, feeling stagnant in their careers, and also people who maybe just need a good kick up the butt, like a bit of motivation and a universal nudge. So it's true what they say, that through adversity breeds new creativity, and so it did with Wildfemmes, the interview series. Now, this series was designed to harness the power of women's stories, to inspire and motivate and most importantly empower you, to help you stay wild and thriving today and hopefully figure out how the hell to do it for all of your tomorrows, because let's be honest, if you're anything like me, you're a constantly evolving works in progress, and that is completely okay. It's more than okay. So I've had a really great time curating this series, and whilst we are fledgling, we have received an overwhelmingly positive response. And I couldn't think of a better way to launch season 2 than with a live interview here tonight with the most incredible guest with you all in my local community, and I'm just so excited. Before we actually kick on, I just want to have a little shout out for the people that helped bring this event to life, because it really does take a village, and I'm eternally grateful. And this is why I need my clipboard, because I don't want to miss out on one person. Thank you, Brooke. Special thanks to Earthwalker & Co, obviously. Amazing. Brooke and her team from Paloma Events. Look at the set. It's absolutely incredible. Kristen with Azteca Margaritas. I've never seen a girl have to make so many margaritas that quickly, let's be honest. You guys really made her work for it. Mrs. Gibbons Florals for the most incredible floral artistry that this event has had. Deborah Hutton Home Collection, which is stunning. Canopy Bay, Limbico, the Salon Collab, and Wollongong Pro Lighting and Sound. Everyone, and friends and family, and obviously my husband and my daughter Goldie have been eternally supportive. So thank you to all those people who really brought this to life. Now, I'd like to take a minute to introduce our guest. So, personally, she has a smile that can light up any room she walks into. She's generous and kind and funny. She's also a little bit naughty, which I love. And my daughter gets to call her Auntie Deb, and I just don't think she really understands how cool that is. Really. Professionally, I really don't even know where to start. So inspiring. I started modelling at the age of 16. She's gone on to become one of Australia's most iconic TV personalities, a published author. She's got a homewares collection. She's got a hat range, and she's also the most incredible champion of early detection of skin cancer and melanoma. And now, enough of me talking about her. Can we please welcome Miss Deborah Lee Hutton. Come on up.
Hello, I'm in the hood. Excited
Welcome. Have a seat, Deb.
Thank you. I'm so in the hood I actually got to introduce a few people tonight to each other, and I thought, okay.
Oh yeah, you're officially a local now.
I know, and I love it. And I have to say that I'm so thrilled to see so many faces when we talked about doing this, because we just get together and have coffee and chats that go for much longer than we ever planned. And every time she says something, I go, oh God, that reminds me of a story. And she said,
I'm going to be her ghostwriter for a memoir.
Yeah, well, there'll be
there might be some stuff we have to edit out.
There'll be a sealed section in there.
There really will be. Well, Deb, I think I can safely speak for every single person in this room that we are so grateful to be here with you, and we are so appreciative of your time. So thank you so much.
Not at all. I'm thrilled to be here, just to support you and just to be part of the local community, because it's been 2 years and a bit since we moved down here, and it's a big move to move out of Sydney, and I couldn't be fucking happier, I can't tell you. Seriously.
Oh, yeah. That's probably something I should say. We're a little bit sweary. And whilst I have tried to drop the habit, it's just, unfortunately, it's a part of who I am. So apologies if it offends. Now, as Deb mentioned, we catch up and we do have a tendency to talk for hours, and we can go into some weird and wonderful places. We really do. So I want to dive right in, because our time is limited tonight. So Deb, I want to take us back. What was teenage Deborah like? And what did she think she was going to be when she grew up?
Well, she had, you know what she wanted? She wanted to be a school teacher. Seriously, me as a school teacher, can you imagine those poor children? I travelled around a lot. Give you a little quick snapshot. Sort of born in England and came to Sydney, and parents divorced, and we went to Queensland, and then lived in New Guinea, and then lived in a place called Stanthorpe, and then back to Brisbane, and then came to Sydney when I was 11, and that was like the first time we'd planted feet. Yeah, it was like fucking, I was all over the place. And so something like 12 different schools. So by the time we got to Sydney, it was time for high school, and weirdly, I went to a girls' school, then a boys' school, because but it was a strange thing. But it's like when you're sort of moving states, that you had to sit down and do some IQ test or something, or whatever, because there was always a difference between moving states. So I ended up at Fort Street Boys High School, which was really interesting. for the first year, because the first formers, they did it gradually. So they had, I know this is not on part of the, anyway, whatever, this is what happens.
No, this is what it's all about. This is what it's all about.
So what happened is they decided to move the first formers and the fifth formers in quietly from Observatory Hill and sort of, do it at a slow motion.
Just so like integrating you.
Yeah, to sort of move into co-ed, as a lot of schools are trying to do right now, right? But they said, we'll do it in 2 stages. So we started off with the first formers, and honestly, the headmistress had no idea what to do. And everything got so out of control. Can you imagine 2 forms of girls and 6 forms of boys who've never touched a woman, seen a woman before? It got down to they had to have this rule that you had to be 6 inches away from the opposite sex. At recess and lunch, everyone used to run around with their rulers and anything else they could do, measure themselves. So anyway,
so this is where it all started.
Yeah, that's where it all started. Anyway, by about 5th form, I don't know, I had a bit of a father complex, and I was madly in love with this much older guy than me, and I just wanted to get out of school. I couldn't wait to leave home, and it got to the stage where I wanted to leave home at 15, and my mother threatened me to, she was going to lock me up, and I was like, okay, I'll wait. So as soon as I had my 16th birthday, I decided halfway through 5th form that I was leaving school. I was going to move in with him, and I left home and packed my bags and said, see ya. And I moved to Paddington from Haberfield. And yeah, I lived with this guy for a while, and he was the one who really introduced me to some people and said, let's do some photographs. You could be a model, and you could be a model. Oh, okay. Sounds good to me.
That old chestnut.
Yeah. But he introduced me to a lot of things. He introduced me to a lot of dope. So I basically started smoking dope at 16, eating red meat, drinking red wine, and driving fast cars at 16. And I have lost my license 3 times, but that's another story. But
that's part 2.
That's part 2. So yes, a little rebellious, but I did. I started my life. I literally wanted another life, and I just jumped into it at 16, and my poor mother. But anyway, so that's what I did. And look, I'm not going to go into the story, but I did marry his brother 10 years later, so I'll just let it.
That's also part 2.
That goes into the
That's
seal
also part
section.
2. Now, what was it like though? Because as a teenager, being sent to like Rome and other parts of Europe to do international modelling, like you don't have a guardian with you, do you? Like you're just set free in the world. 18, I was given a contract to Ford, so Ford's modelling agency in New York, and so I remember. Which is one of the biggest ones, yeah. Yeah, and I remember sort of jumping on the plane at Mascot and flying off, thinking, oh, this is it. I'm never ever going to come back here again. So I had a ceremony by getting all the parking tickets I collected over 2 years and burning them in the gutter, knowing that I was never going to come back here again. That was a mistake. And then I went overseas, and look, it was really tough, because it was the first time that you were thrown out there into the big world, and you're being judged. You're a model, for God's sake, right? So it's all about how tall you are, how thin you are, and I was never thin. I was never tall. I was anything but that. So it didn't sort of work out the way I thought it would. I was in New York for about 12 months, right? But Eileen Ford, the first thing she said to me was, I'm terrified. It's Eileen Ford. She's got glasses the size of plates, and you walk in there and she's like, oh my God, you're Deborah from, where are you from? Where are you from? Oh, Sydney, that's right. Well, turn around. And looked at me like that. She said, okay, lose 10 pounds, come back next week. I'm like, what the fuck? Seriously, come back next week, lose 10 pounds. So anyway, long story short, I ended up in Italy, and I was so freaking depressed, and everything you think about playboys and Italian playboys in the modelling industry is absolutely true. And I didn't have a great time, and my comfort thing is food. So I just got really depressed, and the more depressed I got... So you didn't lose 10 pounds? No. I basically depressed, and I ate, and the more I ate, the more depressed I got. Until such times where I was so big, and I had $250 to my name, and I decided I've got to stick my tail between my legs and go home to my bloody mother. And that's what I did. And I wrote a diary about how I got home via New York and picked up all my stuff and kind of came home with my tail between my legs and between my big legs. And I didn't tell Eileen, I didn't tell my agent Vivian that I was back. I didn't tell Dennis, the guy I ended up marrying, that I was back. I just basically arrived at the airport, and I was like,
really teary, and then I saw Mum, went, Mum, and she just walked straight past me. She didn't recognise me because I was. Anyway, so I hid from the world for 6 weeks, and I lost a lot of weight, and finally, I was running every day, miles a day, and I finally rang Vivian and went, I'm back, because I could fit into size 12.
I can catch up with you now, yeah.
And she's, oh, great to have you home. And that started my career in Australia. I just took off. It took off, and I became quite successful in modelling within Australia. So, but I was still smoking dope. I smoked dope for 10 years. I was a stoner. I was a serious stoner. I mean, I could roll you a 3-paper joint right now, and you'd be so impressed with a filter.
With the filter. The detail is amazing.
So anyway,
we digress. By
the way, I left my husband, and the day I left my husband was the day I stopped smoking. So that was it. I literally never had another joint. Interesting, isn't it?
So leaving your husband was very cathartic by the sounds of it. You didn't need to smoke dope anymore. Now, so you started modelling at 16. So you've basically lived your whole adulthood in the public eye. Did that affect the way you moved through life? Because I actually really can't grapple with how that must be.
I think so my very first job was the Cosmo cover in October 1978. And I remember running up from where we were staying in Paddington and looking at my face on a cover going, wow. And I was really taken back by that. So that's the first time. And at that stage, you think, wow, I've really made it. Like, this is a really big deal. And then I think, when you start sort of seeing yourself, it's just something that it just kind of happened. You're putting yourself out there, you're seeing your face. And as my career sort of, went the ups and downs and whatever, yes, you're constantly living life like that. So it's sort of something I got used to. It's not pleasant sometimes, it's really unpleasant. And I also know that it's not that great being with me. Sometimes if you're a partner and, because people go, oh, hi, and they're always coming going, oh, I love you, I haven't seen you, oh, God, you remind me, my mother loves you, my grandmother loves you. and then my partner's sort of there going, they sort of feel a bit sort of invisible. So it definitely has its challenges, and particularly, and my personal life has just been, honestly, what a freaking story that is. But it's not great, and in Australia, we just love freaking dirt on people. So you're living your life in times.
Juicy bit of click, don't we?
Yeah, and you're hiding. I mean, I can't tell you. Hiding behind doors and just hiding. You're sort of hiding, and it's
such a strange thing to think about living like that. But you did touch on relationships, and I just wanted to ask you, did that affect also how you approached relationships, personally and professionally? Because I'm sure there's the level of trust you probably had to garner there must have been a little bit more.
Yeah, look, it's interesting because, I went out with Harry Miller for 11 years, and Harry Miller, for those who don't know, was an impresario. He was a theatre producer, and he was also an amazing talent manager. Ambulance chaser was the coin. Whenever something happened, he would be there, and he would deal with media, and you kind of need people like that. And he was 27 years my senior. But we had an amazing relationship. But he was really famous. And so I was kind of tucked under his arm a little bit, which was fine. And I felt great security around him, which obviously I have a father complex. We can always work that out. I kind of got used to it, And then unfortunately some of my choices in my personal life haven't been that great. And unfortunately, those stories have, had quite an impact on media over time.
Yeah, they play out.
And they keep coming back just to slap you across the face sometimes. If something happens, they go, oh, let's just drag some shit out again. And remember, this is the girl that went out with that guy, and that happened, and that happened. And you just go, oh, well. So it's really interesting because we live in an age now where everyone's very much putting themselves forward, and it's all about doing selfies, being and putting yourself out there. It's a very dangerous world we live in by doing that. And I think we have to understand the risks involved in particularly this world. And I'm lucky that I grew up enjoying the 80s, 90s and noughties, because this world we live in now is so fucked up. when it comes to all the social stuff and putting yourself out there and what people are doing, that it just terrifies me. And I'm glad I'm kind of past I'm past that.
I must admit, I am awfully relieved that from 18 to 21, there was no such thing as Facebook.
Yeah.
Very relieved.
It's scary.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you know, you're bringing kids up in this, and it's fresh snow. It hasn't been travelled down before. You're making marks, and you can't. There's nothing to compare it to, so you have no idea where you're going with it. It's really scary. So yeah, I'm glad I'm in my 60s. I'm very happy to be in my 60s.
I'm so pleased to hear that. I did want to ask though, like, how much does intuition play a role in how you make decisions, kind of given what we've just talked about?
Yeah, a lot actually. I think the reason I've had the length of career I have is because it comes down to, if something feels right, it's meant to be. If it's a bit like tonight's come together really nicely, really easily, sort of kind of no stress. And it's like in life, if sometimes there's opportunities that come along, or someone will come into your sphere, and if you come up with an idea, or you want to do something with someone, you have got to listen to your gut, because it will always guide you in the right direction. It really will. And then there's also times where you go, well, you think about the money, right? And you go, oh, but I'll do this because I get the money. I'll give you a great example of business, about something that years and years ago I had. I got approached because Harry loved money. Harry Miller loved money, because he got 25% of it. So the more money he got, the more he loved it, right? So he rings me one day and he said, "Sweetie, I've got this campaign. These people have come to us, and it's an amazing thing. It's weight loss, and it's a nasal spray." I'm like, oh, come on. He said, no. Apparently, it's like, they've sent through the deck, and it's amazing, and you just apparently you sniff it and you just lose weight. I'm like, bullshit. And he said, "Listen, I think we should just talk to these people. And I'm like, no, whatever. And he said, anyway, so we get together, and the money was ridiculous. And they wanted me just for 1 year to do a campaign about it. And I thought, well, I think it smells like bullshit anyway. And he said, honestly, what they were offering, this is years ago, they were offering $500,000, a $500,000.
And back then, that's crazy.
Now it's crazy, right? And he's like, we should look into this. And I was like, I just think that's just bullshit, because that's a perfect thing if someone just goes, yes, go for the money, whatever, your career's going to be over in a minute, just go for it. And I was like, I just can't. My gut instinct is that you've got to stick with things that feel right. So we turned it down with his tears. He had tears in his eyes. He was so happy. It was 25% of $100. I was like, whatever. And anyway, so they gave it to some other girl. It was a girl on Country Practice, and she was an actress. I forget what her name is, but she did it. And I saw the ad come out, and she's sniffing this thing and whatever. And then next thing you know,
so wrong.
Next thing you know, it's in the paper, and it was run by that guy called Peter. The one that on the Current Affair, they run after him all the time. Peter Foster. It was run by Peter Foster. So she never got her money.
Oh no.
Well, because he ended up in jail, right? And then she's out there promoting bullshit, and you know what I mean. So it's really interesting. So the choices I've made with my career, I have made because it's about building a brand, and then whatever you do, it's got to be aligned with your brand. And sometimes it doesn't come down to money. It just really doesn't. Yeah. It comes down to if it feels right, and it may lead to something. And sometimes we can be desperate, and I've been in desperate situations, but I was like, no, I'm just not going to do that. And I think it's something you've got to be really true to yourself in those instances.
I've heard you say the phrase, follow your charm. And I was just wondering if you wouldn't mind explaining to us what that means to you, because I think it's a really beautiful sentiment.
Well, and I suppose it goes back to intuition in a way. And look, if you're starting a business, or you are wanting to do something, or perhaps you've got a best mate, and I think we should be doing something together, and we've got a bit of time, or you're talented, I'm talented. It comes down to something that really makes your heart sing. And if it doesn't, I think that's the universe kind of is going to give you a bit of direction. It really is. And if something charms you, really charms you, doesn't matter what it is. It could be, baking a cookie, or it could be the most random thing. But if it's something that's a little passion, or something that really pricks your heart, they go, oh, then follow it. That is following your charm, because then you're putting that message out into the universe, which I totally believe in the universe and nature. Same. And if you send that message out there, then you're actually, it's a bit like manifesting. I'm a big manifestor. I love manifesting stuff because I'm like, okay, this is what I want. I want a car space in Potts Point. And I'm driving there, and I can tell you, I always get a car space in Potts Point because I put it out there.
You are actually a really good manifestor. Would you mind sharing your technique for manifesting? Because I think this is, I've read a lot of books on manifesting. I follow a lot of pages, and everyone has their own way of doing it. So do you have are you a vision boarder, or what's your vibe?
I say it out loud. I'm going to get a car space in Potts Point. I'm driving up, I'm going to get a car space, I'm going to get a car space, I'm going to get a car space. So whatever it is, I'm just going to go, that's going to happen. And I look, it's part of me that I'm a very glass half full person. That's how I live my life.
Yeah.
Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. But I'm just going to go, no, this is going to happen. This is going to be great. This is going to work. And I just think putting out those energies, it's like little spikes. You're just putting it out there. Just going, yes, it's definitely going to work. And sure enough, some things don't work. But you know what? That's good too, because there's, in hindsight with some things, when you've done it, and I'm sure we've always been in this situation, a lot of us have been in this situation with stuff that just doesn't work out. And I go, you know what do you learn from that? How do you evolve from that? What do you take from that? Because there's no downside to that. You might have felt like you failed at something, but Jesus, you gave it a go. And I've been in that situation. I started a digital business. I had a real downtime around when I was 50. And everything just kind of came to a sort of a standstill. A lot of contracts finished, and I was like, shit, what am I going to do now, Because I always had a chip on my shoulder because I never went to uni. So it's not like I can wander around with a piece of paper, Now I've lost track. Oh, the whole uni thing, yeah. But, that's, so it's just kind of, so I just think when stuff happens and it's not great, take something away from it. And this digital business, we did it for 7 years, and it was quite successful. We almost sold it to News Limited, but they'd had a couple of stuff-ups with digital businesses, and they were very shy, and it didn't go ahead. And I knew then that it was never going to work. And after 7 years, I didn't even want to sell it, but I hated digital. I hated it. It's like this. It's ferocious. It's just kind of this constantly sort of this,
It's
you're
fast
on the
and
wheel.
furious, very fast and furious.
But I learned a lot from that, and I met some amazing people, and I take a lot of that away, even though it sort of didn't come to much. It was a great ride, and I think that's a good thing.
But you actually touched on something that I would love to ask you. Do you ever suffer imposter syndrome? You mentioned that you feel sometimes a bit inferior because you didn't go to school or have a degree.
My entire career has been fake it till you make it. Yes. Seriously, I honestly say that with honesty because I didn't finish, I didn't have a proper education. I mean, I had a really interesting life because I said to you, I kind of went to all these different schools and we traveled a lot, and so you kind of have life lessons. But in terms of being an academic or I always felt like I couldn't fall back. I couldn't have a attaché case with a piece of paper in it and go, well, if all else fails and you screw up, then you've got that to go back to. And I never had that. So from a young, modeling's modelling. Shit, I mean, I gave up after 6 years because they didn't want to know what I had to say. Because I'd say, well, you've got that shot. If you haven't got that shot, well, you don't know what you're doing because I just gave you the shot. Like, I've just given you my 6 best faces, so if you haven't got it now... And I knew then it was time to leave modelling. My biggest break was when I became the Grace Brothers girl. So I don't know if...
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Love.
so that was...
Love.
Yeah. And that was the first time. Then I was allowed to speak. So I was allowed... oh my God, I spoke in a commercial. That was a big deal. There was actually, the director was under the desk because I had to dress up like I was a buyer for Grace Brothers, and we have this sale twice a year, and we've got all this shit we need to sell to you, and I didn't know how to sort of say it, and I had this, and he said, okay, don't say it like this, say it like that, and he was literally under the desk, and that gave me, it's okay, it's all right, I was dressed, he was dressed, it's all right.
She had pants on.
We were just good mates, it was fine. He really wanted me to succeed, he so totally wanted me to succeed. He was my first champion. And so that then got me into, then I worked that turned into Maya. I was there for like 14 years. And then, so that was Grace Brothers and then Maya. And, I used to host workshops and shit like that. So there was a lot, it was just learning, right? And that's why I learned my love of interiors and stuff, was doing freaking workshops, selling homewares around the country in all these stores.
That's
so,
amazing.
You know, so everything I've done, and then from television, I got a job on Channel 9.
I feel like we've joked about this before. You've got multiple career personality disorder because you've definitely lived, you know, there's been many iterations of Deborah Hutton. Give us the top line, like map it out for us.
So, well, yeah, modelling.
Grace Brothers.
Yeah, Grace Brothers. And then in between that, when that sort of finished and modelling finished, I was accessory. I used to make accessories for Sports Girl. So I had a little business. And then from there, I got the commercial for Grace Brothers, that's right. And then I got my first gig in television was 1988, and it was the bicentennial. Do you remember that time? And so there's probably a few people that don't remember that time, but that's okay. And they had they had the bicentennial wool parade, which was something that was at the Opera House, and Princess Di came out, and, you know, Charlie and blah, blah, blah. And it was a big deal, and all of these international designers came out, and it was a huge thing. And Michael Parkinson was hosting it. And my first live television gig was I was the co-host with Parky. I'm like, fuck.
That's crazy. So much pressure.
Oh my God, you should have said I'd look like a Christmas tree. I looked so ridiculous. And, you know, I really prepped. I mean, that's the one thing I have learnt. One thing I actually know, and that's, I think a lot of it's to do with modelling in a way. It's like turn up on time, do your prep, and you know more important than the people around you that you're working with.
Yeah, every link in the chain is as important.
Yeah, and they're the three things. So then I had, TV, then Channel 9. So I did Channel 9, I did a lot of lifestyle shows on Channel 9. And then I got offered to be the beauty editor of the Australian Women's Weekly. And I mean, that's a fake it till you make it, because I'm rolling up, they're going, well, I can...
That's also the Wild West.
Like, you know, working for Packer. And so I did the beauty pages for a while, and then when Maggie Tabber decided that she had enough and she was retiring, then I was offered the fashion pages. I felt much more comfortable then, because it was like, yeah, I get fashion. And then I ended up doing the homewares, and then I did in the commercials. And if I'd stayed any longer, I would have probably been doing the vet section. So like I'd spent like 15 years, and at the same time, Women's Weekly's been my magazine. They have charted the course of my life through cover stories.
Yeah. How many cover stories have you actually? How many covers have you actually done?
Like 15, I think. And it's always about Deborah with a broken heart. Deborah's excited about this.
Not one cover. One of the covers wasn't Deborah with a broken heart. It was incredible at 50.
Oh yeah, the naked cover.
The naked cover.
What the hell was I thinking?
We've actually got a funny story about this. We were trying to find the cover and we Googled it, and she brings it up on her phone and she goes, that doesn't look right. And I'm looking at it. Someone's photoshopped it with like someone else's body, and they're like kind of like quite a bit plumper and like a bit different looking. And I was like, I don't think that's you, Deb. I don't think that's not what you look like.
I get my glasses out for another look. I'm like,
I've seen you in your swimmers. I don't think that's you. Yeah.
It was very funny.
It honestly took us 5 minutes though. We were like,
yeah. But I remember I got attacked for doing that, and it was all about the issues that I've had with my body weight, and I've always had issues with my body weight. I'm always struggling. I'm always on some stupid diet and whatever. But it was about me trying to just accept myself at 50, and I was convinced that I had accepted myself at 50, and so fuck me. And they said, do you want to do a nude cover? I'm like, don't be ridiculous. And then I was like, oh no. So I went home and stood in front of a full-length mirror in my G-string and turned myself into so many different shapes that I wouldn't...
Contortionist?
I could do until I looked like a pretzel, and I sat on the ground and went, that's the shot. So literally, I said to David, the photographer who shoots all my Canopy Bay stuff, and we still work together, and I said, sweetie, I got the shot. You cannot do any other. You've got to shoot from the front.
This is the one move. Do you know what I think is funny about people giving you backlash about that? It's like, God, they hate a happy woman. Hey, she's happy with her body. How dare she?
Yeah. Well, I'll never forget this one person wrote in and they said, oh my God, it looks like her head's been photoshopped on someone else's body. And I actually...
I'm just that good, okay?
On social media, I went, well, if I'd done that, I would have chosen one with bigger tits.
Yeah.
I've always been a little flat in this area.
Well, look, whilst we're on the topic of the Australian Women's Weekly, so you did that role, you worked with that company for nearly a decade, maybe?
Yeah, about 15 years I worked for the Weekly, yeah.
Yeah, and I'm sure some of us have probably seen Paper Planes, the Cleo story with Ida Buttrose,
yeah.
and you know what I mean? Like, we've kind of seen this fictionalised version of what it's like for work for a magazine, but like, what was it really like? And like, is there any standout moments for you?
Ridiculous. There was a woman, and I don't know if anyone's been in publishing, but there was an incredible woman called Nini King. And she is just like a ball of fire, terrifying ball of fire.
A force.
And she was the editor of Woman's Day, and then Kerry brought her up and said, I want you to take over Woman's Weekly and Woman's Day. So she'd come from that real hardcore kind of slap it in your face kind of, you know, and she wanted to take the Weekly that way. But sadly, she'd lost her husband in a diving accident. She was also another stoner, right? So she's a massive stoner. She's going through massive depression. She's on pills. She's like getting stoned. She's coming to work and she's smashing it because she's just working around the clock, and we're doing the numbers, circulation was just building. But the pressure of working for her was just, she was all over the place. And I'll never forget this day where, you know, I'd be just like nervous going in and doing a shoot, and I'd show her the photos. She'd go, yeah, they're great, love it. Okay, I'm like, oh, thank God. And then I'd get a phone call on the weekend, and Harry and I were driving down to our farm at Foxcrown, and she'd go, what is this shit that you have presented to me, and I need this all reshot again? I'm like, fuck.
I thought you said you liked it.
Oh my God, I know. I was like, I don't know. And then I remember she came into my office one day and she was so angry that she put a hole in the door. She punched a hole in the door. And I was like...
Glad that wasn't my face.
No,
but
I just, seriously. I mean, it's full on. But the thing I loved about it is that you work in a team, and it's the same with television and all the different shows I've done, be it at Channel 9 or Foxtel, is I love being part of a team. And I really do. I'm not a solo player, because I think there's a comfort in it, and you also recognizing what your weaknesses are and what your strengths are, and I think that's really good in life to really own that and go, I am really bad at that, but I could take that part on. So, and I think that's something that if you are in business,
being socially aware.
Well, being socially aware, but also being really aware of what your strengths are. You know, if you've got a creative brain, fantastic, but also appreciate that you might need someone else that doesn't, and maybe they're more analytical, and maybe you need someone with a bit more business nous. Because I can't tell you how many friends and businesses who are so insanely creative and talented who have just gone to water because they didn't have that right balance. And it's like, okay, own what you've got, but also own what you...
Do what you do,
and you haven't got,
Yeah, exactly. Well, on that, I was just wondering, like, for anyone that might be just starting their career or maybe pivoting... Forbid, I can't believe I just used the word pivot. I know, sorry, it came out of my mouth before I could stop it. For anyone that might be changing careers later in life, do you have any advice for them? Because you've got this brilliant positive mindset and ability to take on projects and create your own opportunities. So I'm just wondering if there's any wisdom you can impart there.
Look, I think it's really, we've all been put in a really difficult position at some point in time, and it might be emotionally something very personal to you. You've lost someone, and we've all been in that situation where something's really impacted us. And also, you know, this whole security's been a big driver for me. And so, you know, you kind of go, okay, this is a job, I'm gonna have it, I'm gonna have this is gonna be great. And then something happens, and unfortunately it doesn't work out. And then you end up sort of sitting in your shit, right? And I think sometimes it's actually really good to do that. I really do. Not for too long.
Yeah, we can't
not
wallow.
For too long,
no wallowing.
But just to, not to wallow, but also not to acknowledge it. I think, you know, it's not happening. I think you've got to acknowledge what's going on and how you're feeling about it, because it's amazing what can come out of these times where you just really sit in your stuff and you go,
uncomfortable growth.
Yeah, and honestly, I think that's where you actually do the most growing up, or the most evolving coming out of those times, is to just sit in it. And look, I know we're going to touch on skin cancer, but there was, you know, we want to touch on that now?
Yeah, let's talk about it, because I'm not sure if everyone here is aware, but Deb has had her own personal experience with skin cancer and has had a long journey with this. So I think it'd be really important to share that.
So the first time, this is about 12, 13 years ago, I was going down to Melbourne to host something. And I had this little kind of thing that was sort of sitting there. I thought it was like a pimple or something. Anyway, I I got the skin guy to just check it. And he said, yeah, I don't know what, let's keep an eye on it. He was so sort of, whatever. And so I was just conscious of it. And I remember going and hosting some big thing. And I went back to the hotel and, took my makeup off. And as I got a hot towel, I kind of did that. And it started bleeding. And I just went, oh, shit, this is definitely something. So I go straight in and I see this derm. I had to, because it's not that easy to see somebody. So I had to ring up and get a few favours. And they said, yep, you've got something there and it has to come out. So I said, well, what do you mean? They said, well, it's actually could be quite some size. So I remember getting in the car, and this is a while ago. I'm still on television, and I remember getting in the car, and I just sat there and I just burst into tears because I didn't. I really thought my face is everything, and what the fuck am I going to do if I don't whatever my nose is on the left side of my face or what's
Were you worried about your career? Were you
I was totally worried about not even worried about the cancer. I was like, what am I going to do?
Because your whole career you've been judged on your appearance, basically.
So, I remember ringing up Mum and she was like, you'll be all right, Bubby, you'll be all right. She calls me Bubby and I'm in my 60s, but anyway. So, thanks, Mum. And anyway, I had a great surgeon and got through that, and sure enough, skin healed and it was fine. Then, 4 years ago, same sort of thing. Something was there. There was something that wasn't even visible to the eye. And I went in about something else, and he said, "Yep, but we need to do 2 biopsies." And I was like, "What do you mean 2?" Seriously, it was not visible. There was one tiny thing. Next thing you know, I'm back on the cutting room floor again, and I was like, "Holy shit!" And it was in the same area. So, and I must show you the photo because I went home, and I was obviously feeling a little bit sorry for myself, but I went home and I had these stitches, and I kind of didn't want to know about it. And I laid on the couch and I looked, because I went to go and get the stitches out, and I said to the nurse, how many stitches? And she said, oh, too many to count. I was like, oh shit. I said, can you just take a photo? And so she took a photo, and then I went home that night and I laid on the couch, and that was the photo. And I posted it. I don't know why. I just went, shit, I must have said something about this is my second skin cancer and blah, blah, blah. So then, with a massive gin and tonic in my hand, I'm lying back listening to Peter Overton on the Channel 9 News. And I see that photo come up. Same day, going, oh, Deborah Hutton's skin cancer and da-da-da-da-da. And
you're like, oh, all my contracts, all my things, yeah.
Oh, I didn't really have that many at that time. And so I was like, whoa, and it went viral. It absolutely went viral. And I had a current affair call me, and we did a story with a current affair, and this photographer friend of mine said, he said, listen, this is a really important story. He said, we could do the most really beautiful photograph with the rawness of the scar. And I went, that's great. So I basically organised a whole shoot with literally gin and tonics that whole week. And I'd organised David to shoot it, hair and makeup, styling, and then I rang up the editor of the Woman's Weekly and I said, I'm going to give you a cover story and you have to run this. This is really important. And I said, I'm shooting this thing whether you want it or not. She said, it's the easiest cover, thank you. And basically we shot it, and we shot it that Friday. And I was no makeup because I just wanted to look raw and angry.
Well, it does. When I look at the photo, it feels tender and very sore and just a lot. It feels like a lot.
It was a lot, but you know what? And I've said this before, it's kind of one of the better things that's happened to me, because I have literally a platform to talk about something which is really important. So, we talk about, turning lemon into lemonade, but it was confronting, but it also was something that, this is really freaking important. This is something, and I know Scotty M's husband does an amazing thing with Skin Check Champions. And so it's this is the charm thing. This is follow your charm. It charms me to talk about this, and I do a lot of keynotes on it, and I do whatever I can for different skin cancer charities and building awareness around it.
What are the stats, actually? I should really know this.
2 in 3 Australians. 2 in 3 Australians.
Yeah. So basically, within 3 of you or someone you know in that group will definitely get skin cancer. Like
2 in 3 Australians, 95% of them are non-melanomic cancers, which are BCCs and SCCs. But melanoma, that's the stuff you got to be careful about. That's the one you want to, that's where it gets a bit ugly.
It's our deadliest cancer in Australia.
But then what happened out of that was I got, after doing all this media, I got inundated with letters and messages. And one of those letters that came to me, one of those emails was like, do you appreciate that the hats you've potentially been wearing, because I play golf in a silly cap or a visor, that the hats you're wearing may not necessarily be giving you any sun protection. And I was like, what are you talking about?
Well,
yeah.
And
it was through that I discovered a particular product, which is UPF 50 plus, called FlexiBraid, and met with these hat makers in West Gosford, and they said, do you want to, think about doing a range? I'm like, shit, I would love that.
So this is how Canopy Bay was born.
That's how Canopy Bay was born. And
such an important piece of the story.
Yeah, and I love it. I love, because I'm back in design again, because I really love design and love colours and stuff like that. And so Canopy Bay was launched in COVID, so it launched online, but actually has still quite a solid presence there. But again, it gives me the chance to talk about it.
100%. Like that is such, I feel like any product that is born from such a personal life story is so important.
Well, that's what I'm saying to you about because we are going to pivot. Well, we are going to go through times where you don't want to be doing the same thing you've been doing, or you want to do something else. And you're always going to be challenged about that. There's always going to be times where you're given an opportunity that's random, that's just come out of left field. And you go, whoa, didn't think that'd be happening. But I think it's as important to say no as it is it's important to say yes, because sometimes everyone just goes, yes, I'll try 100%. That, yes, I'll try that, and I've been known to do that. But there's a lot of things that I've said no to that have been that I've protected my brand. I keep going back to the brand, because if you do have a brand, always know what it is and protect it at all costs. But yes, you're going to be very, very mindful of what you say yes and no to. And
you said the other day too, you made a really good point. We were chatting about something, and you said when you say yes to something, you have to think about who you're saying yes to and who they surround themselves with. Like it's kind of like the domino effect of like who you're around, which I thought was really great.
It's interesting. So like reality TV, okay? I've never and will never dance, sing, cook, eat a cockroach.
Praise be.
Will never, and the money they throw you is ridiculous, but won't do it. But the thing I learned many, many years ago that Harry said, he said, you will always be associated with the lowest common denominator. So if you stand there and if you're in a photograph or if you're got a business or you're doing something, and one of those people, if it's a group thing, one of those people, you go, well, I'm not too sure about that person, step out of it. Because you'll be forever linked to that person.
Well, with Canopy Bay, you seem to be in good company. I saw Princess Mary was wearing your hat.
Queen Mary.
I know. Queen Mary. Sorry.
Yeah,
sorry,
she's
Queen
a
Mary.
huge Canopy Bay fan. I love it. It's a gorgeous shot of her today. We posted that. It's very, very exciting. Nicole Kidman's even had my big hats on. And Marcel's here tonight. She's kind of our little retailer down here. It's great. It's a brand. We're looking at going over to the UK and doing stuff, but I love it. I just love working with it. So it
brings you joy.
Yeah, exactly. And I came down here to kind of say no to a few things and say yes to things like my homewares and my hats, and just doing that and just talking about skin cancer. So that's really what I want to concentrate on now. I don't want to.
Yeah, that's so nice that you can direct your attention like that as well.
I just don't want to wear another pair of high heels as long as I live. I mean, I never want to MC another thing. I'm like, I'm done, I'm done. Hand it on to somebody else.
Passing the baton.
Yeah, I'm passing the baton. Yeah.
Well, you've kind of just naturally thrown us into this next question. Like, what is next for you then? Because obviously you've got the Deborah Hutton home collection and you've got Canopy Bay. Like, what else is happening in your life?
Oh, just a little bit of renovating. So bought a massive project down here. It's It's a lovely red brick asbestos, concrete cancer, ceilings falling in, sewerage imploding.
I was about to say, it's throwing a few spanners at the moment.
Yeah, it's definitely sending the message it doesn't want to be here anymore. So just definitely just finalising plans, and hopefully we get to knock it down next year. It's a 2-year build, I reckon. And a bit of a difficult one, a bit of a challenging one. I'm good with paint and pillows. I'm not too sure about hydraulic engineering and shit like that. But anyway, it's going to be
once
big
again, strengths.
learning.
We get
Exactly. Surround yourself with really good people. Surround yourself with really good people. I've had champions in my life that have been there. And so intuition, you know the people around you who are really good, and just stick to them. So yeah, I've got a few people. So that's going to be the biggest thing. And I'm renovating a little apartment in Potts Point that I just bought today.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Congratulations.
I know, excited. So just so I can have a toe out in Sydney. But yeah, so probably seriously running into renos and doing all that, which is just...
And all the interior design that you
love. Yeah,
love.
space I love. It's a real space. It's really good fun. And also, honestly, just coming out of... Getting away from Bronte and moving down here has been so heartwarming, and we love it so, so much. And the thing I love about it is this beautiful community that I have felt so embraced by. And I said to Vanessa earlier, I said, well, I'm not shy. She said, you're not kidding me. I went, well, I go up and say hello to anybody. Hi. And I've always been that way. I think I've always been that way because that was the way I grew up as a kid, going to 14 different schools. You're always like, hi, I'm the new girl.
You had to walk into the room.
Yeah,
exactly.
We just love it.
Did you want to share with everyone about what you're giving them?
The candles. I bought in 70 candles, so you're all getting a Home with Deborah Hutton scented candle tonight. So
yeah. So everyone who purchased a ticket through the site is getting a candle. You'll be able to get it on your way out.
Yes.
In this series, we do love to talk about a bit of boo-woo or woo-woo, whatever we like to say. But what keeps you centred? Like, what sort of daily practices or routines or modalities, things like that help you keep grounded and centred and keep life thriving?
Well, I love routine, and then I love when I go on holidays and there's no routine.
Yeah.
And I'm about to do that, and it all just goes out the window. But I love a routine. I just want to be body strong. I want to be strong and healthy, but I want my body. My mother at the moment is in a nursing home, and she's frail, and I'm looking, going, I'm not going down that track.
That's not me.
No, so I'm a bit of a Pilates nut, and I love it, and I love the strength, but I've always been working out, so I've got to have some exercise. I love walking. Pilates is fantastic. I meditate. I'm with a meditation teacher, Andrew Marsh. I was doing it prior to meeting him, and I took it up about 10 years ago, and it's been one of the things that just keeps me, because I have this kind of tendency, girlfriend calls me frantic, that's my nickname, is frantic, and I never knew that.
Really?
Yeah, I never knew she called me that.
Really?
I was like, really? Why are you calling me frantic for? And So yeah, I think in life sometimes you're just searching for something, and I found it through meditation, and it's Vedic meditation, and I do that religiously, and it gives me just gives me that basis of that sort of wider understanding of universal principles, and just realizing that the shit that we deal with on a daily basis doesn't really kind of matter. There's kind of bigger things at play, and then we just take it and we go into this very egoic world where we make everything really big, and I think sometimes it's good to just stand back and just see the greater picture. So that's really helped me. So yeah, it's that, and I don't know, I get up in the morning and have lemon juice and turmeric every morning, and hot water. That's kind of my thing. Drink a lot of water, but then I drink a lot.
We do enjoy a good margarita, don't we?
We love like margaritas, and I've got a wine cellar, and I love the good life. I like fun. I love having a laugh and having a drink, and I love cooking. I'm a big entertainer. I love having people over and smashing out food and doing all that. That's a great pleasure for me. So,
it's a great pleasure for us, actually, as well.
But I also, I'm like a concertina. My body, I'll come back after a month and I'll be like, oh my God.
No, you won't.
So help me. Put me on that bike. Anyway, that kind of happens, but it does. I'm honestly, that's why I wear loose things, because
We're not about moderation in this family.
No, I wish. I'm a bit all or nothing. I am. I'm very, can be very strict. But the other things, I just think it's good to have a routine. I think it's then great to break out of a routine.
Yeah,
I really
think
do.
everyone should do that anyways.
Yeah.
I think and even something like this tonight, coming out with a bunch of glorious women and filling your cup. Because I often find with myself that the cup filling moments are few and far between when you can just kind of go out and do things for you. So this has been glorious. It's been glorious. Yeah.
It's beautiful. Well, it's lovely to be here. I don't have kids. I don't know how you guys do it. I really don't see with laughter. Right?
Honestly, I'm still trying to figure it out, and I only have one.
Humour. So. Yes. You need a strong margarita, and you need good friends around you.
Strong.
That's.
I've always got Azteca in my fridge because you never know when you need a margarita. Let's be honest. Deb, this has been just so wonderful, but we are running out of time, and I just
we didn't even touch on anything we were going to talk about.
Yeah, I know. I've got this massive list. I'm there's going to have to be a part two. But I thought we've got a couple of minutes. I could probably do 2 questions from the audience. Would anyone have a question for Deb? Yes, go. You can ask your question. I'll repeat it for you.
Hi.
This is a hard one for me to repeat, actually. So she's basically asking how you are able to be a free agent whilst working with other companies.
The fake it till you make it thing, I think, has given me confidence over the years because... Look, I inherited strength from my mother, so I have an internal strength where I just you just get back up again and you just do it. But I have been. Someone pointed out to me years ago. They said, you've been self-employed your whole life, and I'm like, really? And it didn't really occur to me. But yes, basically, I've been contracted to so many different things, and but I think it's just important to. And I can't stress how important it is to have champions around you who believe in you, because when someone turns around and you have doubts, right? We're all going to doubt. We don't sit here and go, fuck, I'm fabulous and I can do this. You go, oh my God, how am I going to do this? And I've been very, very fortunate to have some amazing...
That's what motherhood's like, by the way. How the fuck am I going to do this?
I've been very fortunate to have really good champions around me. I really have. There was an amazing man who passed away last year called Brian Walsh, and he was director of television at Foxtel for years. And he saw something in me, and he would give me, he even gave me jobs. You're hosting the Astor Awards, you're doing this. I'm like, no. And he'd go, you got this. And surrounding yourself with people who've got your back and say, you've got this, you can do this. You kidding me? You'll nail it. And you go, oh, maybe I can. Maybe I can. And I think it's really important to have those people around you. And don't listen to the dream stealers.
Yeah, and I was just going to say, Deb, something you're really good at is big swings. You just sometimes got to have a big swing, right? And
with my right fist? Or?
No, but with career decisions, I feel like you're someone who sets a goal and you're like, I'm just doing it.
I'm going to do it.
Yeah, I'm doing it. I'm going to have a big swing here. Yeah. And it always seems to...
Yeah, but do you have people in your life? Do you recognise people in your life who turn around and go, you know what, you are amazing? Because you need someone to look at you and go, you are amazing. You're going to nail this. And you go,
it's so important.
Well, it just seriously, it just gives you that little bit of, okay, I think I can do this. And I really put it down to that because honestly, starting with nothing, I've had and Harry Miller was huge in that space for me because he just saw something in me that I didn't see. He saw the next Maggie Tabber. He said, well, she's going to get to a certain age and she's going to whatever. You're the next one. But, he saw something, right? So you just go, okay. And if you, surround yourself by really, really good people and you'll know that with intuition. You will know that.
Yeah. That's amazing. Thank you so much. That was a brilliant answer and what a great question. I've got room for one more question.
To be honest with you, no. When I was when I started to go out with Harry, I was turning like 30. I was 29, 30, and I started going to different things. And we obviously spent a lot of time with older people. And I was entering in publishing. I'm doing this, that, and the other. And I go to all this, and I was like, who am I supposed to be here? And as I was growing up, and because I started my life, my career I was 16, trying to figure it out, even though I was stoned.
Like a baptism of fire. Yeah.
Literally.
See, I told you she was naughty. It's a good thing. It's a good thing.
I sort of had to pretend. I didn't know who I was, and because who he wanted me to be, right? Because Harry saw something in me, and he did. He honestly said, he wanted to form me like Grace Kelly. I'm like, I'm not fucking Grace Kelly. That when I'd swear, and he'd go, you can't swear. I'm like, and I was like, and so no, there was a long time that I was pretending to be whatever they were paying me to be. I was a spokesperson for Holden, for Qantas, for Women's Weekly. There was all these companies, and it's like they have a brand, and I was the face and the voice of those brands. So I had to fit in within that box. And that was, so then it took me, it's a good question, it took me then much later in life to work out that was just all an act. And it created a brand. Yeah,
because the people around you are trying to cultivate you for what their needs are.
Yeah, and you're going to pay a lot of money, and you need to do this, that, and the other, and But then and the beautiful thing about getting older, and that's what I love about getting older. I love it because you don't care as much. You are who you are, and there's no apologies for it. And I think that's one of the most beautiful things about getting age. And I love getting older, which is why I want to be strong, Minnie. So you've got to, as you get older, I think there's a beauty in there. But it is about accepting it. So for me, it's a random life. Mine's such a random life. But it was definitely, when I was younger, I didn't know who the hell I was. And now I do.
Now you do. Actually, you touched on something that we definitely should finish with, which is the beauty of aging. We've talked about this extensively just between us, but given you have worked in an industry where you are judged on your appearance a lot, it's quite critical, you're in the public eye, how have you been able to age and love yourself through that process?
Look, I have to say, it's really, it's kind of, there's a difficulty, but there's also great acceptance, because my face, I've looked at my face and studied it through 40-something years of images and whatever. And, you're getting older now and you're going, okay, I'm starting to turn into my mother. I knew it was going to happen. I just knew it.
Your mother must be a legend.
She's funny. But I'm just seeing it. I'm like, oh my God. And there's a part of me that's really horrified that I'm turning into my mother because I can see it. But if I can give anyone a great advice about beauty and aging, always face the light. Whenever there's a photograph, fuck the background, just face the light. Just face the light, face the light, face the light. Just make sure you do that. And light will just lift you up, honestly. It will just make you feel so fabulous about yourself.
Well, that is a very, very good piece of advice to finish on. Like sunflowers. Now, Deb, I did just want to say a massive thank you. This has been the most incredible chat. And I think everyone here, can we just give her a round of applause, please? Because it's amazing. Enjoy.
Fine. My favourite. How did you know white flowers are my favourite? They're my favourite.
I've been in your house.
Thank you.
It was funny. I was talking to Mrs. Gibbons, the floor arrangement, and I said, okay, I really would love to gift Deb a beautiful bouquet. And she was like, oh, I've already been to the flower markets. All I've got is white orchids and white hydrangeas. And I was like...
Perfect.
It's perfect. It's perfect. Now, also, I've spoken a little bit about this on my socials, but I do affirmations with my 2-year-old every single day, and she is going to grow up to be quite the sassy force of nature. And so in her honour, I've created this. Yeah. I've created the Goldie Tea, which is wearable affirmations that we're launching tonight here at this event. And Deb, I would love you to have the first one. So thank you so much. This is for you.
I love this. I've seen the artwork for this. It's fantastic.
So my thought process behind this t-shirt is that every day when you wear it, you read the affirmations and it helps change your positive neural pathways. But anyone who passes you on the street that might catch a nice affirmation or two while they're doing that, maybe you'll change theirs as well. So
it's beautiful.
These will be available to purchase at the counter if you would like to add it to your collection. We've also got some of my linen tea towel collaboration with Saunter. That's for you.
Thanks, sweetie. That's gorgeous. I love it.
But yeah, Deb, we are just so grateful for your time. This has been such a wonderful chat, and I dare say we may have to do a part 2. I had 3 pages of notes. We didn't really touch them at all. So anyways, thank you. This has been wonderful.
Everyone for coming. That's been fun.
And
it's been a lot of fun.
I just want to say a big thank you to you guys as well, because we are cozy in here tonight, but you've really been good sports about it. So we really appreciate it. It's been a wonderful evening and I hope you enjoyed yourselves. And yeah, please come and have a chat. This is going to be up on the podcast next week. So if anyone wants to re-listen to it, you can. But this is the start of season 2. So make sure you're following Wildfemmes for more information and that you follow the podcast. Awesome. Thank you so much, everyone. Appreciate your time.
They say it takes a village, and with the first Wildfemmes IRL, it was no different. Special thanks to our sponsors, Earthwalker & Co., Paloma Events, South Coast Party Hire, Azteca Margarita, Home by Deborah Hutton, Canopy Bay by Deborah Hutton, Limber Co., Pro Sound and Lighting, the Salon Collab, and Mrs. Gibbons Flowers. At Wildfemmes, we have never felt more empowered. I hope you enjoyed this very special episode, and be sure to subscribe, rate and review, as this means the world to me. Stay wild.